Have you ever noticed that some diets work for some people but not for others? I ended up being really polarized to one kind of diet because it fit my lifestyle, I was able to do it for a long period of time, and I got great results because of that. And it's exactly those kind of scenarios that make for really passionate advocates. I mean, look at CrossFit for an example. The mechanics behind a diet or a workout regime or whatever it is only half the story. Let me explain with my story. I'd just given up on counting calories, which was absolutely exhausting for me. I mean, think of going to Yumcha and trying to log and track, half or a quarter of 20 or 30 different dishes. And think about when you make a recipe and you have 10 or 15 different ingredients that might be different to the one you find on your calorie counting app. Anyway, it got so bad that I would actually start to change the ingredients in my recipes. I'd reduce them because I just couldn't be bothered tracking so much stuff. And cooking was one of the things, and still is something that I really love and I enjoy. So my recipes ended up going from being gourmet to meal prep. So I basically gave up on the recipes and the hobby that I loved and instead made meal prep. But you know what? Look, it worked, right? I got great results, but I wasn't happy. But it did give me a pretty rough idea of how much and what kind of food I could eat. So I took those principles and then I went to another diet. This time I tried intermittent fasting. It did, however, give me a really good understanding of how much food I can roughly eat and what kinds of foods I can eat to lose or maintain my weight. So what I did was I took those principles that I'd learned and I moved on to the next diet, which at the time was super trendy.
Wow.
And apparently the next silver bullet. But by the time I got round to this diet, I was starting to realize that it wasn't just the what I was doing, because that really determined how long and at what intensity I was going to do it for. And the same is also true with workout routines, which I would find out later, which I'll get to in a sec. So I start off with intermittent fasting, which involved me skipping either breakfast or dinner to fast for 16 hours or sometimes a little bit more. And you know what? It worked until I got to a similar lifestyle speed bump, where I wanted to have breakfast or I wanted to have dinner out. So eventually it got to the point where I wasn't able to stick to this rigorous routine anymore. So instead of moving on to the next popular diet this time, I took bits and pieces of different diets that I'd done over the last 10 years and started to create an amalgamation of my own diet around my own lifestyle that still followed the basic principles of weight loss, which is the amount of calories you eat versus the amount of calories you spend. And truthfully, this is exactly the same path that you're gonna take. Now look, you might be fortunate and one of these rigid diets may work for you first go, whether it be counting calories, whether it be keto, whether it be intermittent fasting, or whether it be meal plans or whatever, right? But chances are, if you're a normal human being and you like to do things, that aren't always within the lines, it's probably not going to be a perfect fit for you. Now this process that I went through, and hopefully you go through as well, is going to happen regardless of what coach you go with. So if you're patient enough to start with some basic principles and go through and figure out what actually works for you, what you like, and what doesn't work for you based on you, then I'm your man. Of course, there's many other coaches out there, right, that will be able to take you through the same thing. So at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to who do you like, who do you vibe with, and who do you feel you click with as a person and as a coach. Each are going to have their own quirks and their own differences, and mine is I love to cook and I love to eat. So if you're into gourmet food, if you're into cooking and you enjoy doing that kind of stuff outside of your 9 to 5 grind, then you have come to the right place and you should get started below.